This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
The nexus between leadership and prosperity is today's topic for conversation on The Discourse. And my guest is no other than Dr. Chris Asoluka. Traditionally, what I do is read a very short profile of my guest, but today it was a struggle. How do I minimize? How do I summarize this thing? But let me make an attempt. Dr. Chris Asoluka is the chairman CEO of Nipal Consulting Network, a multidisciplinary consulting firm that offers a diverse bouquet of professional services to corporates, public sector, and government. Chief Chris Chigoziri Asoluka holds 2 bachelor's degrees in political science and law from the University of Ibadan and University of London, respectively. He has 2 master's degrees in international economic relations, University of Lagos, and a Ph.D. in policy design and implementation, University of Ibadan. Dr. Chris Asoluka is a revered management, development, and strategy consultant. He served as Commissioner for Finance and Economic Development in Imo State between 1994 to 1996, and was also elected member of Nigeria's House of Representatives in the National Assembly in 1992. Dr. Chris Asoluka has written, edited, and published a large body of work, including Compilation of Nigerian Maritime, 2003. He's a seasoned leader, administrator, public speaker, strategist, policy expert, and advocate of people's rights and welfare. He's a Knight of St. Christopher and holds many traditional titles, including Okuroha. Dr. Chris Asoluka is happily married with children. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
I thought it Okuroha,
I recalled it quite
well. Once I put your name out there as my special guest, people had to send me text. They say, Okuroha is going to be on The Discourse. How did that come about?
You did quite well, and I was a bit scared that you could mispronounce it.
Okay.
It will be more specific.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it's a kind of a title that binds the entire Owerri clan.
Okay.
In more than 4 local government areas.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
I go straight into it. Chief Asoluka. How important and how tough is it to provide leadership in difficult and turbulent times?
Actually, the time for leadership is in turbulent times, because when things are calm, anyone can claim to be a leader. But when there is a crisis, that brings a challenge to leadership. So if you're talking about leadership, some people mistake office. If you're an office holder, they think you're a leader. Office could be an enhancer to reach a broader spectrum of people to influence.
Okay.
Because leadership is just a process where a person or a group of persons can exert influence over other people to achieve a common goal.
Okay.
That's the most simplistic. But one interesting thing is that the body of the academic focus on leadership, following the authoritative book by Dr. Burns, right, of, I think it was Indiana University, US, that looked at leadership and felt that people really don't understand what leadership entails. Some people even would mistake leadership for manager. Management is quite different from leadership. If there's an objective, it's just like we tell people strategy is not planning.
Yes.
Planning, the objective is there. The resources are being provided. You now sequence in terms of execution or implementation. Why strategy is from nothing, right? You make a choice where you want to play, how you want to play, how to win, and sustain the victory, as it were. So when we talk about leadership, it means that you are exerting some influence. If you hold office, good. It will now expand the leadership scope. But if you think that leadership, office gives you leadership, then there could be what we call crisis of legitimacy. And when you have crisis of legitimacy, things don't work as you planned it because people don't believe that you are their leader. People don't see themselves in you. So they don't have a buy-in, not to talk of ownership of the process. So when you talk about leadership, one interesting thing I told you is become an academic issue, and it's become a practical issue. So that McKinsey, after studying some leaders over a broad time, said all leaders do exactly the same thing. So leadership is teachable, it's learnable. It's not those who are born great,
inherit,
those who have greatness, trust upon them. If you focus, right, leadership is the key to good governance.
Oh, great. I'm happy you put a context and a foundation to today's conversation around leadership. And of course, during the course of the conversation, will bring that nexus between when leadership becomes good, do we get prosperity out of it? When it becomes awry and bad, what is the consequence? Now, because I say this is that, especially in the science, when things are difficult and very troubling, look at the science: atmosphere of fear, existential threat, talent loss and mobility, revenue pressure when you talk about businesses, and then so on and so forth. I'm told that true leadership must include the ability to distinguish between real and apparent leader. But today, it's not just apparent, it's real, isn't it? So, do you have to be a Winston Churchill to be a good leader?
No, you don't. I've told you that leadership is learnable. It's a skill you can learn. But some other people who could have it like second nature, learning leadership enhances the scope.
Okay.
So you talked about problem solving. Leadership in crisis means a leader must have a vision. A vision is a solution, is a change. You want to take people from where they are, which may not be a preferred destination, to where you think they should be. And to do that, a number of issues will come into it. Communication is there. Do people understand where you're taking them to? Empathy is there. Do people see from you? It's not do what I have said.
Yes.
Have they seen a reflection of where you want to lead them to from your activity? So leadership is more of activity. Than action.
Oh, fantastic.
Sorry, than words.
Yes, yes. I'm happy you've led me into that because, of course, I understand that there are many elements that come together to make a great leader.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of characteristics a good leader should have.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
So, let me a throwback. Madiba, Nelson Mandela. It comes to mind when we talk leadership, especially in Africa. In his biography, Long Walk to Freedom, he wrote, Robben Island was without question the hardest, most iron-fisted outpost of South African penal system. It was a hardship station, both for those who are in prison and those who work there. You could see that his words had authority, but they were never hectoring or bombastic. They all the time created simple vision and clarity. So the question, because you touched a bit about communication, how important is communication in leadership?
Of course, there should be no second guessing as to the intention. In fact, the more vivid, the more there has to be clarity of vision. Because a blurred vision would keep your followers in doubt. Right? So clarity of vision is very, very essential. As you do it, you break it down to goals and strategy. How do you get there? Right? And when do you know you've gotten there? Right? These are critical issues entailed. The other thing, I'm happy you mentioned Mandela. Mandela was a leader, but the 27 years imprisonment offered him opportunity for introspection as well as for learning and also for improving his empathy because he has gone to the lowest part of life.
Yes.
So he has seen it all. So when you talk about leaders, some people will use acronyms, some say VICE, some say VAIL. But the important thing, the vision must be there.
Okay.
And learning must be there. Because without learning, you won't even understand your situation. The awareness, situational awareness will be a little bit poor. And integrity is very important.
Yes.
Because if you don't have integrity, you won't engender trust. People won't believe what you are offering them. And if I know you're a political economist, Machiavelli was quite profound. People misquote Machiavelli in terms of popular saying that the end justifies the means. No. Machiavelli was an advisor for change, and he observed that the most important thing in life is change. Because those who want to improve their lot, they may not even know, right, what you have for them in store. Yeah. But those who will displace, they know what they will lose, and they can gather and fight you to a standstill. So clarity is very important, so that those who are following you, they know where you're going. It's just like two of us now going out, and we say, let's go to Ikeja and visit a friend. If I decide to take a ride with you, if I don't tell my driver where we are going, given the traffic situation in Lagos, what if on the Third Mainland Bridge, we miss each other, the driver doesn't catch up with our speed? He will be floating. Yes. But if communication was clear, we are going to Isaac John, number 10. He will be following. Yes. But even if he misses us, he knows where we are going. You take the guy I respect so much, Alexander the Great. Okay. Every general in his army, every soldier in his army was a general. So if he died or was defeated, he wasn't afraid that the battle would be lost. Whereas others will have a hierarchical sense of leadership. I am the leader, I shouldn't do certain things. No. Yeah. A leader should observe, he should empathize, he should know how those things work.
Okay. Yes, because I needed to give you time to situate communication, because I know how important it is in the heart and ingredient of leadership. In fact, without communication, because there's a difference between knowing and understanding. And Correct. In the context of your explanation, you have actually situated that difference between knowing and understanding. There are a couple of messages, but I will pack these messages and take them maybe at the second or stanza of the discourse today. But let them keep coming.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
Now, Dr. Chris Asoluka, entrepreneurship, of course, like I know, isn't about capital alone, If anything, it's about ideas, especially when those ideas are bankable. It is also about excellence, not excellence measured in awards or other people's approval, but the sort of excellence that one achieves for oneself. So, you see, however accomplished somebody is or a leader is, in fact, people tend to remember the things you are not so good at as against the things you are good at, which in psychology is called selective perception. So that can, of course, impact on confidence. So I'm going to the area of confidence. So how important is self-confidence? Do I put it this way? Could self-confidence be seen or considered as arrogance sometimes? Because this is a problem with a lot of leaders. That balance.
Yeah, in communication study where you are an expert, yes. We have what we call homophile. Okay. Right? And heterophile. Okay. Most times, a leader may have one or two levels ahead his followers. Okay. If he doesn't manage it very well, it could be misconstrued, because when like talks to like, the understanding is easier. But when someone is talking from top, he has to be careful in order to ensure that he is understood. So I agree with you that communication is key. Enterprise, you talk, of course, is one of the virtues of leadership. If you're a leader, you don't have vision, you don't have empathy, you are not learning, and you are not proactive to solve problems, then you are not a leader.
Okay, I'm happy. And you said something which I'll frame as a question because it has to do with areas about being able to learn. But I'll ask that question in a different context because I'm very sure you give you do a lot of service to it. So businesses favors people who, when they see a problem, try to do something about it. Because you mentioned solutioning. In fact, I'm so I so embrace solutioning because I know that the whole world is about solutioning. And in fact, today's solutioning, I would rather spell SOUL because it has to come with a soul. You know, you talked about empathy. So, but business favors pragmatists over perfectionists. It favors adventurers over fantasists. When done very well and in the right spirit, talking about business brings you success, whatever that means. So how do you measure success? What is success to you?
What success is like the title you gave to this discussion. You said prosperity.
Yes.
The target, what you have set off to achieve, when you get it, to that extent you are successful, right? But it's not uniform.
Okay.
Success to you may not be the same to me.
It's relative. Yeah.
It's relative. So if I have an objective, right, for Peter Drucker, he came with management by objective, right, to measure whether he has gotten where he wants to go. But with that was old school management.
Okay.
With people like Andy Grove, right, of Intels, and John Dow, who clearly came in measure, you know, the key factor of measurement. So you can do OKR, what we say, objective key results.
Yes.
So when you have an objective, you expect some results. When you achieve those things, you are successful to that extent, right?
Yes.
So it's not like a vacuous, you know, concept that you just chase in the dark. If you say that, look, this studio in the next 5 years may turn to have television that will be the dominant television in Africa, right? If in 5 years' time it comes to be, you have been successful in that. Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like the target you have set for yourself, right? It's like when you teach strategy. Strategy is not in vacuum. There is the old school strategy scholars like, say, Professor, the famous man, competitive advantage, right, will tell you, okay, come. There are dying industries, you don't go there because you are sure to die, right? The new school came. I said, no. If you want to succeed, create fresh markets, right? And go there. You set tasks for yourself. And to the extent you accomplish those tasks, to that extent, would I say you have succeeded or you've not succeeded?
Fantastic. It's important that we put context to success because this thing we call success means one thing to the other and another thing completely to another set of people.
Correct,
But,
yes.
We needed to put context to that. So there is some question I like to take, even though you've touched about it. But the argument, the guy didn't quite put his name, but I think it's a good question to throw out. He's saying to grow the organization, you first and foremost grow the leader. You know, of course, Dr. Chris Asoluka had put context for that. But do you have anything to say to that? He's saying grow the leader first, then the organization grows.
You see, the bifurcation could cause a problem. Okay. Because he even said it in passing. You don't attain perfection, it's on the table.
Yes.
Right? By the time you are doing, you are learning. But a leader is unlike a manager who has an objective, specific task, and the resources. Okay. When he applies it, you measure. But a leader projects in future. What could be the problem? He sees problems that don't exist.
Yes.
He takes you to a destination that you can't see. But a manager will be interested in telling you, oh, come, our target for this month is this. Our target for next.
Those measurable
yes.
stuff. Yeah, I'm happy you explained that because leadership is like, you know, when a ship is sailing, the man who sees the world through telescope, you know, he sits on top and he says, this is where we're going. Whereas there are some people in the turbine who are ensuring that the engine of the ship is rocking and is moving. So that's a manager.
Yeah.
But the man on the top who is showing direction.
The difference between a navigator,
yes,
the captain,
yes,
and the chief engineer,
yes,
and the seaman.
And the seaman. That is the difference. Chief Asoluka, today is a Sunday, so let me go a bit into the scriptures, if you allow me. When a leader is out of touch with God and his people, he loses his teachability. In fact, what is quoted in the scriptures, it says, he who keeps instruction is in the way of life, but he who refuses correction goes astray. And this you can find in Proverbs 10, chapter 17, the New King James Version. So like Samson, this person would progress in error until his destructive end. When do leaders lose their teachability?
This is a very important question, but it goes back to my side comment.
Yes.
Most people take office holding as leadership.
Yes.
Right? A leader should be in touch with his people. We've talked about the importance of communication. How do you communicate with the people you've alienated yourself from? How do you have a feedback? How do you know? You see, we say that an organization without a leader is like a ship without a captain.
Yes.
But a drunken captain may not be a good captain by all measure. It's just like when you say bad leadership. It's oxymoronic.
Okay.
A leader is a leader. If his judgments are poor and he doesn't fit the bill, he's not a leader.
Okay.
He may be a title, he has position.
Yes.
And he has,
has an office.
Yes, he has an office. But to describe him as a leader may be begging the question, right? And it may be like a tautology. Because a leader carries his people along. He defines where they should go. He is, his character is known. He's trustworthy, right? And again, people can be sure of the man who would not lead them astray.
Yes. In fact, I'm happy you touched about character, because leadership is not just something you do. It's something you are, if you agree with me. And that is why great leaders have strong magnetism. People tend to, move towards them because they revere them. All leaders desire results, but being must precede doing. You have to first be a leader before you can do. So what you're able to do as a leader comes as a result of who you are, just like you've explained. So you must be a person of character, because you just mentioned character. So what is the place of character in leadership? I know you've mentioned it, but will it be appropriate to emphasize?
Can you trust a man without a character? Right? Character defines the essence of the leader, who he is. So if he tells you to move, you are not afraid that while moving, the man could, retreat without telling you. So character is key, it's important.
Yes.
Just like courage, a leader has, he must take the lead. He must lead by example. And the totality of this is the foundation of trust. And leadership without followership trust is empty. It's what we call the legitimacy crisis. People are not sure where you're leading them to.
That's great. I'm happy you mentioned courage, because it's a very important ingredient in the mix when we talk about leadership. Because you can give a man everything, but you can't give him courage. And without courage, you could not possibly lead. So now we are going into the nitty-gritty, because I want to take you about the nexus now, how it concerns all of us. Looking into the history of Nigeria, when would you consider the golden years of leadership, and can you align it to the golden years of our economy?
In a way, yes.
Okay.
Though the founding fathers, their major achievement was independence.
Okay.
But I would suggest that they were a bit more prepared than their successors.
For leadership?
For leadership.
Okay.
And because of that, the environment also brought the best in them. Regionalism gave them an opportunity to take their different regions to develop. So when Awolowo had the first television in Africa, Zik replied to say that I will have the clearest, most audible television in Africa. Sardauna of Sokoto said, wait a minute, mine will be people-oriented, right? You talk about education. It took these guys from 1956 to 1960 for Awolowo and Zik, and for Sardauna to 66, right? Go and see what they achieved. Is it the industrial estates they built? When Awolowo built Ilupeju Industrial Estate, Zik built Transamadi layout in Port Harcourt, Obudu Cattle Ranch, Nkalago Cement. When Awolowo took the initiative of free education, Zik was challenged, though not with the same kind of resources Koko gave the Western Nigeria Marketing Board, right? And his solution was what he called Ibuanyi Ndanda.
Okay.
A philosophy that bridged the gap between Western Nigeria and Eastern Nigeria within 20 years. Okay. Because in the 30s and 40s, most Easterners, whether Cross River now, Rivers, Bayelsa, most of them in Lagos were offering menial services.
Okay.
Right? Which was what perhaps promoted Zik. Zik perhaps was the first name what became Nigeria had that was not from Western Nigeria.
Okay.
So you could see the empathy. This is our own. So when you look at what Awo achieved, Liberty Stadium, right? The road network, free education. Look at what Sardauna achieved. Is it the Northern Nigeria Development Corporation? Is it Zik, his own, industrial layouts? Okpara came and continued. In terms of character, most of these leaders, when they left, they did not amass the wealth. You now see leaders do in today's. So, I mean, if the money you would have used to develop, you are amassing it in order to be the richest man.
As if that is the objective.
It's displacement of goals, right? It's, self-aggrandizement. You went there for public service. You came out and became a billionaire. Most of these people, first generation leaders, which was why Malaysia, Indonesia, they were coming to Nigeria for one thing or the other. And would it shock you that even the king of Saudi would come to UCH for medicals? So the medical tourism of Nigeria was so good that people visited Nigeria. I remember when I was even in university, lecturers from Yale, Oxford, Cambridge could come on exchange program.
To Nigerian university?
Yes. I can name courses I was taught.
Okay.
Right? Whether Dr. Yanseni, Dr. Wang, these were Yale lecturers. They came to Ibadan. They taught us. And Ibadan lecturers went to Oxford to teach. Would you expect
that to happen today?
That to happen today? Now, even, without sounding immodest, when we graduated, those with very top second class upper and first class, they had automatic admission even at Oxford to do a 3-year Ph.D. program.
Wow.
But now, most first and second degree holders from Nigeria could be subjected to do some postgraduate diploma before they now go for their masters. So the indices are there. You cannot... Rose, how much did they have? People talk about Obudu. Zik built Obudu. Sustainability became our problem. Awolowo built Odua.
Okay.
Sustainability is our problem. So when you look at the quality of leadership amongst the first generation leader, there seems to be a cause that when we look back, it would appear that today's government is worse than yesterday's government. And so it continues. So when you draw a parallel, it could be, I've not done a study,
yes,
but it's challenging. And casually, you could see the correlation, the impact leadership could have on the level of development.
What a picture you've painted, and it's very sobering, if I must say. But let's even look at how the rest of the world is doing so that we can rate ourselves. If you scan the top 5 economies in the world, would you say that they are the best led? And this question came from Nelson Ahaneku. I thought I should touch on it because, you know, just to situate our situation, you know, the top 5 economies of the world, would you say they are the best led? Just so that we see that nexus.
Well, Nelson should go and read again Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.
If you don't know where you're going, every road takes you to your destination. First thing leaders have is vision. They know where they want to go. I've demonstrated, say, with Awolowo, when he saw education as key, right? Zeke supported him, saw education as key, and built the first Nigerian university. Ahmadu Bello said, my people will not be let to stay, you know, backward. He built Ahmadu Bello University. Now, if you look at the time it took to build this thing, railway, the colonial masters built Lagos-Kano Railway in 3 years, from 1912 to 1915. The second line from Port Harcourt to Enugu, then to the Maiduguri axis. You know why the Port Harcourt was built? Port Harcourt was not existent before 1911. It was when coal was discovered in Enugu in order to evacuate the coal. Just like in order to evacuate the produce, Lord Lugard, you know, started the rail to Lagos. In order to evacuate the coal from Enugu, a new city and a port was built. And the colonial secretary, his name was Harcourt.
Okay.
As a tribute to him, the colonial administrator, right, named Port Harcourt.
Okay, is that how it came about?
Yes, that's the origin. So when you look at the time it takes them to execute a very basic thing, you begin to wonder. Now you said, let's take an international globalized focus. It's not accidental that the economies that are doing well, they have leaders that are focused, or the institutions are matured, right? And the common parameters will be they run inclusive, merit-based, you know, institution, and there is not it's time for chop. Come and
chop, yes.
No, it's not. Right? Japan came from the ashes of the war in 1945. After Nagasaki and Hiroshima, they went inward. By 40-50, poor quality produce and products were called made in Japan. I don't know if you experienced it. In the 60s, Japan was not on. But in the 70s, the hallmark of innovation was Japan. Look at their system. There could be regularity in changes of persons, but the institutions don't change. Right? Look at America. No matter how a leader or their president would like to be, he won't be bigger than the institution.
And we saw that with Trump.
See what he's going through, right? So when you see this openness, inclusiveness, right, and empowerment, deliberate empowerment from the leaders, of course, the economy is bound to do better. So if you ask me, there is a correlation.
Like I would say, we have a message here. I think it's from a Sosa. She's saying, very sobering picture the guest has painted. Today is all talk and no work. And as the Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. I'm very sure that a lot of people listening out there are getting a lot of knowledge today on the discourse. So, Dr. Chris Asoluka, from what you've said, it's clear to me that leaders aren't developed overnight. They can't be made in a microwave. from if I can deduce that. If anything, they have to be simmered in a crock pot. Where have all our leaders gone then? Ours is a country that was at once, remarkable for the way leaders were produced. In fact, leading to that, the question I'll ask is that in the history of Nigeria, when would you consider golden years of leadership? You've answered that, but what would you consider the root cause of crisis points in our country for this failure of leadership? What impact has it on the economy and the leadership recruitment system? How do we fix this leadership recruitment process? Because it looks to me that is where the issue is. Yeah. Where did the water enter the watermelon from? Like they say,
good. You see, I don't want to detain you with the political history of Nigeria.
Okay.
But by the time the colonial masters were exiting, it raised a question. Who takes over from the colonial masters? And that meant politicization. But these leaders were fairly nurtured for leadership. Awolowo again, he was Secretary of Transport Union in Ibadan, produced, he went through, and the pupillage introduced him to Nigeria youth movement in the late 30s, and they paid their dues. When he went abroad, with his colleagues, they formed Egbo Omo-Oduduwa, that later became Action Group, right? These were builders. Zik came back in 1933 from Ghana to Nigeria, right? And started editing 4 newspapers. West African Pilots, Southern Defenders, every region had a Zik tabloid.
Okay.
You ask Saduana, you know the meaning of Saduana?
No, please tell us.
He's like captain of the Sultanate Army. He was given to service. And it was from there, when there was a kind of crisis between the Sultan and himself, right? The solution was very easy. This guy maintained traditional title. This guy went for politics. And politics was an opportunity for him to do what he thought the people needed. But let me even shock you.
Okay.
What about Tafawa Balewa? Who was a teacher, but in terms of articulation, I think he has been the most articulate Nigerian leader to date. Meanwhile, he was a grade 2 teacher. But he groomed himself. Today, people don't groom themselves for leadership, right? And now they say that the best training ground for leadership is student leadership. When you will control, in quotes, your peers, your contemporaries, you are not brighter than them, you are not taller than them, you are not more privileged, but they respect and obey you because they think you are serving the common cause.
So you've ended.
So any good student leader did that because he believed in service. Those who went to steal were almost disgraced. But today, public office, which we equate with leadership, is an all-comers game. So that even if you have mind for public service, it has been so corrupted that the expectation from those who will vote you in fact, my first experience was in Igbo. We say, someone who gives me is the person I will give. Right? To the extent that the man told his brother, you have been going around saying you are campaigning. If you don't do this to me, I won't do this to you. That means if you don't give me booze to drink, I will not give you my thumb. That's today's politics. So when someone spends that kind of money to go into public office, of course, don't blame him.
Becomes an enterprise.
Of course. It's a business venture.
Fantastic. Somebody just said today is a special edition of the Discourse. Please, we need a recording. Dr. Ken, please ensure that. Yes, we'll look into that. All the episodes are recorded, but this one we will put together especially for our archive. Chief Chris Asoluka, you have led many associations. In fact, I am told that you were the first president of Mejore. What's Mejore? What was the purpose? You know, I was told, you know, so when I heard that, I said, what is Mejore? And what was it had to do with this development? It had to do with this leadership you talk about? What is Mejore?
I go back to our first generation leaders.
Okay.
Who would argue that if you can't lead your community, you cannot lead the larger group. So charity begins at home. Mejore was a kind of response to the problem we had. I don't know if you do. The typical Owerri man was not taken seriously.
Okay.
Because the Owerri man was a relaxed,
easygoing.
Things were not so important. So that when we graduated and came to Lagos, no matter what you were doing and how good you were, your friends could just sniff at you, say, look at him, Owerri man. And in Igbo, they say,
what does that mean?
Meaning there's this delicacy, right, we call Oba.
Okay.
Is some people say local salad.
Okay.
Right? Very tasty. And some people could be misled by that. When they go anywhere and see Oba, they could forget why they
came in the first place.
So it was alleged that the average Owerri man immediately had Oba and good woman. You can build anything you want. It's not his business. Easy come, easy go. Right? And it wasn't a true reflection of the new generation of Owerri man. Okay. Even the old generation. When we looked back and saw people like Amans and Joko, who was an epitome legislator, we not challenged ourselves, saying, no. We have to correct this impression. We will enjoy Oba and every other thing, but we should get more serious-minded to pull through the younger ones. Started scholarship scheme to unite our people. Started football competition to enjoy with our people and create that conviviality. We started having old age where our big brothers, younger ones could come. So any 26th December, if you were not at Concord Owerri, you didn't belong. You were not an Owerri man, right? And with time, we started training Ph.D. and all that. To the extent that if you had a first class, even in Igbo or Yoruba, we'll give you an award.
Really?
Because yes, any guy who pulled through a first class, it was no mean feat. So with time, it brought us together to this extent. There's this joke. You know your Ken, my friend Ken.
Is it Ken Oji?
Ken Oji, yes.
Okay, yes.
When I was getting married, after the wine carrying, we came back with the new bride. In the evening, my wife said, could we go and visit Ken Oji? I said, no, Ken Oji's house is about 30 minutes drive from my place. He said, I thought he was from, the other village. That shows the kind of bonding we had achieved with Mejore. So that that complex of Owerri man, get that over one me.
Yes.
Was a kind of handle. That was for Mejore.
Oh, fantastic. Another guy is pushing. Thank you very much, Chief Chris Asoluka. Another guy is pushing. I think it's coming from Sheriff Kokwala. The emphasis is still the same. He's saying today's session is deep and phenomenal. please, this needs to be recorded. Perhaps it's time for Classic FM to have recorded version on YouTube. My special appreciation to Chief Asoluka. I got to know his name long time ago. This is Sheriff Popola.
Thank
you. We have 10 minutes left, but we're going to make the most of it because I'm even getting messages that say, please, whatever you did to drag Chief Asoluka to the studio today, you should repeat that trick because we need to have a 2.0. Yes, I'll talk to him nicely and see how it goes. Another one is saying, Baba, if Nigeria were a hairline, it's receded far too much that only the bald hair would do. Otherwise, it's surgery that can only be handled by ruthless political doctors. Unfortunately, corruption has kept us this way and in the theater. Now, before we round off, Dr. Chris Asoluka, let me go a little bit back to something that is very important to leadership. This thing called market, because I'm taking you back a little bit to economics and to market, just so that we touch the whole circumference of possible areas that leadership can impact. This thing called free market, do we assume that there's no place for morals in business? Because I'm taking it to business. I'll just ask only one question in business. You know a bit about the leading brands in the consumer goods space. Is this why they are successful as leading brands? I don't know if I contextualize this way. Is it because they are ruthless and there is no moral in business? That's why they are successful as leading brands. Well, so where's the place of morals in business?
Yeah, business could have a soul.
Okay.
Right? But the tendency could be ruthlessness. Which is why, even in America, capitalism is not allowed to have a free reign.
Yes.
Right? They have antitrust legislation.
Okay.
So that Microsoft, when it was growing towards a monopoly, just like just like Apple, right? People started saying, no. If we allow a monopoly, we'll all be exploited. So the tendency is for that. But what is the function of state? State is the moderator. To regulate. Right? So you don't tie a man's hand behind. Allow him show innovation, show resourcefulness. But the resourcefulness and innovation shouldn't be at the expense of the people. That is why states should be alive. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Regulation. And regulatory agencies are not only knowledgeable, they should have character. And they should be fair-minded. Because the temptation is always there.
Yeah, very good. There's another. There are a couple of messages, but I just pick a few. One from Yemi Adejumo. He's again saying, "I doff my hat for Dr. Chris Asoluka because today's topic, especially as outlined, is very relevant to the indices of leadership in Nigeria. A leader must be legitimate." He said that's what the first thing he picked. And of course, for him, that is what he would commit to memory. He says change is only constant factor in business and in life. Business must constantly change. Yes, he has said that. You don't rely on your performances for 20 and 20 years thinking that is enough prerequisite for you to throw yourself or make yourself available for leadership, because leadership is about excellence. Yes, you're right, Yemi Adejumo. But he is saying, Dr. Chris Asoluka, to say, yes, the picture is grime, is gloomy. Is there hope for Nigeria?
For me, yes.
Okay. So the cup is half full, not half empty.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's hope.
Do you want to expand that? Because a lot of people have keyed into this program today, and for them, I see this sense and of hopelessness. Yes, because we decided to give context to our history, progress it to where we were and what could have been. But as we travel, because this is a massive country with a lot, I hate the word potential, because you couldn't say potential for a 61-year-old man, isn't it? At some point, you have to begin to deliver. But there is hope, isn't it?
Yes.
Given all that you know
yes,
about
which
Nigeria.
is why once elections are over, we should try and focus on governance.
Okay.
And it's unfortunate that the judiciary has been drawn so recklessly into the electoral system, so that it's like all we live as Nigerians would be contestation of power. Power for what? After election, 2-3 years, we are still dragging each other. You can't grow. You can't grow. You see, let me even shock you. If you check the Human Development Index, you cry for Nigeria. Nigeria is below the African average of 0.55. That is 0.55 out of 1 point. We are still at 0.531. This last year, we rose reluctantly to 0.535.
That's a predicament, you know.
Why Mauritius is at 0.81. Algeria, 0.73. Even Republic of Benin, 0.54. It's annoying.
Yes.
So the Human Development Index, right? Nigeria is number 28 out of 54 in Africa. Yet we're the giant of Africa. Nigeria is number 163 out of 191 in the world. So there is a whole lot of work
To be done.
And people should know that prosperity is not a wish. It's what you do. Garbage in, garbage out.
Just like hope is not a strategy, isn't it?
So if you want to improve Nigeria, we must all roll our sleeves. And those in political offices should begin to de-emphasize patronage. Right? Because when you have this, you see, affirmative principle is good, but it has standard.
Yes.
But Nigeria is taken to the extreme. Affirmative action doesn't mean patronage, that when someone is not qualified. It means go to that area and search and get the best
from there.
From that area. It doesn't give you an excuse to begin to reward cronies. Nigeria has a lot of potential. I believe in the youth.
Okay.
Of all compliments you give me, the greatest awards I have cherished, whether it's UI in 2006, their student union government made me their role model of the decade, whether in Imo, all these universities made me their, I cherish that because when I see what our boys and girls are doing,
despite
the odds in tech and in entertainment and in football, of course, we are crying for them to be given opportunity to put us where we should.
Great. I'm happy we are ending on a good note because despite all that, the Nigerian cup is half full and not half empty. So there is definitely hope. As is our tradition on the Discourse, the Chief Asoluka, you give us either a Nigerian proverb or an African proverb. And after that, you give us the music for the week.
You should have warned me. Right? I'm a typical Owerri man.
Okay.
There's this thing we say.
Okay. Okay. What does that mean, please? Translate.
Make hay while the sun shines.
Make hay while the sun shines.
Nigeria should.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. And the music for the week? What is your choice?
Well, I was those days we were the boys.
Yes.
Now, I go back to Owerri.
Okay.
And as a tribute to a man who singularly uplifted what we call the bongo music.
Okay.
Bongo was a music that came up after the war.
Okay.
Where it was cheap to remember and give your departed ones a final resting place.
Okay.
So, Edi Kwansa, bia.
And that's it on The Discourse with Dr. Ken.